Fast food chain Taco Bell is turning to artificial intelligence to meet the demand of its drive-thru customer.
The fast food chain is testing out its first fully vegan option at select locations.
It's cheap, it's fast, and let's be honest, sometimes it just hits the spot. Taco Bell has become a go-to fix for late nights, lunch breaks, and budget cravings. But what if that Crunchwrap you love isn't quite what you think it is? What if the beef barely qualifies as real meat, the cheese isn't actually cheese, and the tortillas are wrapped in chemicals linked to cancer? That's not just fear-mongering. It's part of the very real story Taco Bell doesn't want you to know. Because behind the catchy slogans and dollar deals lies a long list of ingredients, shortcuts, and quiet scandals that never make it to the commercials. This isn't just about calories, this is about filler agents, banned substances, international ingredient swaps, and a packaging problem scientists are sounding the alarm on. And the craziest part? Most customers have no idea. You've probably eaten it. We all have. But once you find out what's really hiding inside that taco, you might think twice before your next late-night run. And if you think the food is bad, wait until you hear what one of their suppliers was caught doing behind closed doors. That part, we'll get to before this video ends. Let's start with what Taco Bell calls seasoned beef. You see it in tacos, burritos, and Crunchwraps. It looks like ground beef. It smells like ground beef. But the reality, it's far from the 100% meat you think you're eating. Taco Bell was hit with a class action lawsuit claiming that their beef mixture contained only 36% actual beef, with the rest made up of fillers, binders, and additives. That lawsuit was eventually dropped, but not because the claims were disproven. Instead, Taco Bell responded with a PR blitz and minor tweaks to the recipe to avoid more public damage. So what's really in it? Their beef blend has included ingredients like maltodextrin, processed sugar, soy lecithin, used to keep oils from separating, sodium phosphates, common in industrial meat processing, and torula yeast, a flavor booster. Sounds like something you'd find in a lab, not a kitchen. And while these ingredients are technically FDA approved, that doesn't mean they belong in your taco. Taco Bell has since claimed their beef is now 88% meat and 12% signature recipe. But let's be real, if your meat has a recipe, it's not just meat. The question isn't whether it's legal. The question is why a global fast food chain needs to stretch their beef with so much filler just to keep costs down. And what does that mean for what ends up in your body? Because if the meat is barely meat, what about everything else? That cheese on top of your taco? It might not even count as real dairy in some countries. Take a look at that warm, gooey cheese dripping from your nachos or melting across a taco. Looks delicious, right? But here's the uncomfortable truth. Taco Bell's cheese and creamy sauces aren't exactly what they appear to be. They may look like dairy, but what you're really getting is a mix of processed oils, modified starches, artificial colorants, and chemical thickeners that mimic the look and feel of real cheese without delivering the actual nutrition. Let's talk about that famous nacho cheese sauce. It's not just cheese, it's a blend of maltodextrin, whey protein concentrate, sodium stearoyl lactylate, lactic acid, and a host of artificial preservatives. Some versions even contain yellow 6, a synthetic dye banned or restricted in parts of Europe due to potential links to hyperactivity and allergies. It's smooth, it's creamy, but it's lab-designed, not made in a kitchen. And it gets worse. Shredded cheese used in many Taco Bell menu items contains cellulose powder, a filler made from wood pulp that helps prevent clumping. It's technically safe, but it also means your cheese is being stretched, padded, and processed beyond recognition. Add in flavor enhancers like disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate, and you're not tasting aged cheddar. You're tasting chemical theater, designed to feel indulgent without being real. And the sauces? Many of the creamy dressings and jalapeno-infused spreads contain a laundry list of preservatives, stabilizers, and cheap oils. Stuff you'd never use at home but somehow shows up in every other Taco Bell wrap. But the most frustrating part? Taco Bell doesn't even use the same ingredients everywhere. In countries with stricter food laws, many of these additives simply vanish, which begs the question, why are US customers still being served the version filled with fillers and fake flavor? Stick around, because next we're exposing Taco Bell's international ingredient double standard and the truth about what they won't serve overseas. You'd think a global brand would serve the same food no matter where you go. But when it comes to Taco Bell, the rules change depending on the country and not in your favor. In the United States, their food is packed with preservatives, artificial dyes, flavor enhancers, and chemical thickeners that make it cheap to produce and long-lasting on the shelf. But if you walk into a Taco Bell in the United Kingdom or parts of the European Union, you're getting a cleaner, stripped-down version with fewer artificial ingredients and more real food. Why the difference? Because many of the additives Taco Bell relies on in the US are either banned or heavily regulated overseas. Things like yellow 5, yellow 6, and red 40, which are used to make sauces pop and cheese look richer, require warning labels in the EU or are outright restricted. In those countries, Taco Bell reformulates recipes to avoid backlash. So the same nacho cheese that's pumped full of food dyes and emulsifiers in America is made with actual cheddar and simpler ingredients abroad. It's not just about color either. Preservatives like BA and TBHQ, linked in some studies to cancer and hormone disruption, are far less common in European fast food. But in the US, sure, they're still used because they're allowed. So instead of offering the best version to all customers, Taco Bell offers the clean version to places with strict laws and the cheaper, more processed version to places that don't push back. It's a quiet double standard, and unless you read the fine print on the company's international ingredient lists, you'd never know it was happening. But here's where things really get wild. If the ingredients shift so easily depending on location, what's going on inside the kitchens where this food gets prepared? Because what former employees say happens behind the counter might make you lose your appetite altogether. The commercials show sizzling beef, fresh ingredients, and smiling employees assembling your taco with care. But what really happens behind the counter at Taco Bell tells a very different story. One that's less made fresh and more factory-style fast food assembly line. Former employees have shared a consistent theme. Most of the food doesn't come fresh. It arrives frozen, powdered, or vacuum sealed, designed for speed and shelf life, not quality. The refried beans often start as dehydrated powder that gets mixed with hot water and stirred in an industrial vat. The ground beef, pre-cooked and sealed in plastic bags, then reheated in boiling water baths before being squeezed into tacos through a metal spout. The steak comes pre-sliced and marinated in flavor additives to make it taste fresh, when in reality it was prepped weeks ago. And sanitation. Multiple employees have admitted that during high-traffic hours, cleaning takes a backseat to speed. One worker described using the same gloves for hours, handling raw food, cooked food, and even touching trash bins in between. Another said managers pressured them to skip proper food safety steps during the lunch rush just to keep up with drive-through times. Some reported cross-contamination between vegetarian and meat ingredients due to poor separation and sloppy prep. What you see is the finished product, wrapped up neat, served with a smile. What you don't see is the constant pressure to cut corners, the use of industrial reheat methods, and food safety shortcuts that would never fly in a home kitchen. And while that's already unsettling, it's only the surface. Because if you think the food is treated poorly, wait until you hear how the people making it are treated. Next up, we dig into the burnout, underpayment, and corporate pressure workers face every single shift. While customers wait 5 minutes for a taco, the people behind the counter are running at full speed, often under extreme pressure. For all of Taco Bell's flashy ads about fun workplaces and opportunity, many employees paint a very different picture. One of low pay, chaotic scheduling, and relentless burnout. Start with the pay. In many locations, team members start at or near minimum wage, often without guaranteed hours or benefits. Add to that a culture of understaffing, where 2 or 3 people are expected to handle what should be a 5-person job. Line cooks juggle food prep, fryer duty, drive-through orders, and cleaning, all while managers push for faster ticket times and upsell goals. And if someone calls out sick, everyone else is expected to absorb the extra work, no matter how exhausted they already are. One former employee shared how they were routinely scheduled for clopening shifts, closing the store at night, then coming back 6 hours later to open. Another described being asked to clock out, but continue working off the clock during inspections or rushes. That's not just unfair, it's wage theft, and lawsuits have been filed across the country because of it. Then there's the emotional toll. Some team members report being pressured to ignore harassment, being screamed at by customers, or being told to fake positivity no matter what. The fast food grind wears people down, physically and mentally. And for those who speak up about unsafe conditions or demand better treatment, there are stories of retaliation, shift cuts, and sudden performance reviews used to justify termination. So while customers get fast, cheap food, the people behind the line are paying the real price. But Taco Bell isn't just manipulating labor, they're also manipulating customers, especially when it comes to what's on the menu, how it's priced, and what you think you're getting a deal on. Up next, the shady psychology behind their ever-changing menu. Every time you walk into Taco Bell or open the app, something has changed. A new combo, a limited time only item, a reimagined twist on something they discontinued just a few months ago. It feels exciting, spontaneous, even generous. But behind the scenes, Taco Bell isn't just experimenting. They're strategically reshaping your choices, using behavioral psychology designed to make you spend more, without even realizing it. Let's talk about the cravings box. It looks like a deal. 4 or 5 items bundled for a low price. But here's what you're not told. Each item is carefully selected based on cost margins, not customer value. The portions are tweaked, the ingredients are heavily repeated, and the illusion of variety is created by moving the same components around in different wrappers. You're not getting more food, you're getting more processed filler disguised as choice. Then there's the constant menu rotation. Popular items like the Mexican pizza or nacho fries disappear, come back, disappear again. It's not a mistake. It's called artificial scarcity, a tactic that taps into FOMO and triggers emotional spending. When an item is only around for a limited time, people rush to order, not because they're hungry, but because they're afraid of missing out. Even pricing plays a role. Ever notice how most items are just under whole numbers? That $1.99 taco, $4.99 combo, or $7.49 box? That's not random, it's called price anchoring. And it makes items seem cheaper than they are, especially when you're distracted or ordering quickly. And while all of this is happening, Taco Bell is also working behind the scenes to make sure the food you're buying doesn't just tempt your wallet, it hooks your brain. Because next we're exposing how Taco Bell engineers their flavors, textures, and ingredients to trigger cravings and train your brain to want more, even when you're not hungry. Have you ever craved Taco Bell out of nowhere? No hunger, no real reason, just a sudden urge for a cheesy, salty, crunchy hit? That's not just comfort food talking. That's your brain reacting to flavor engineering, a method used by major fast food chains to design food that hijacks your taste buds and rewires your habits. Taco Bell's menu is full of what scientists call hyper-palatable foods, combinations of fat, salt, and sugar crafted to hit the exact neurological bliss point that triggers a dopamine release. That's the same brain chemical activated by gambling, social media, and even certain drugs. Once your brain gets that hit, it remembers the source and starts craving it again and again. Let's break it down. The cheese sauce hits you with salt and fat. The crunchy shell stimulates texture sensors. The seasoned beef, already full of flavor enhancers, adds umami and warmth. Then there's MSG, monosodium glutamate, often hiding under other names like yeast extract or hydrolyzed protein, which is added not just for taste, but to amplify everything else. Your mouth lights up, your brain rewards you, and soon you're back in line ordering more. And this isn't accidental. Taco Bell has food scientists and product developers who test hundreds of combinations before releasing a new item. They measure chew time, they track texture, they even analyze how food smells right after it's unwrapped. The goal isn't just satisfaction, it's repetition. To make you come back not because you're hungry, but because you're conditioned. But while your brain's being trained to crave more, there's another hidden threat you've probably never thought about. One that doesn't come from what's inside the food, but what it's wrapped in. Because next we're exposing the chemical-laced packaging Taco Bell uses and the health risks that may be hiding in every paper wrapper and greasy bag. You unwrap your taco, you toss the paper. You never think twice. But the truth is, what your food comes in might be more dangerous than what's inside. Because recent studies have revealed that many fast food chains, including Taco Bell, use packaging coated in toxic chemicals known as PFAS. PFAS stands for per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances. They're often called forever chemicals because they don't break down in the environment or your body. These substances are added to food wrappers and containers to make them grease-resistant. Sounds helpful until you learn what they're linked to: cancer, hormone disruption, immune system damage, fertility issues, and more. And when your hot food sits in those wrappers, the heat can cause these chemicals to leach directly into your meal. In 2020, a study by the Environmental Defense Fund tested food packaging from dozens of chains, and Taco Bell was one of several found using pest-treated wrappers. After public backlash, Taco Bell pledged to phase them out by 2025. But that's years away, and enforcement is weak. Meanwhile, customers are still being handed these wrappers every day without a single warning. And it's not just about your lunch. PFAS chemicals accumulate in the body over time. They're also polluting drinking water across the country and affecting communities who live near production facilities. All from something as simple and invisible as a taco wrapper. So while you think you're just enjoying a $2 snack, you could be exposing yourself to something far more toxic. Not from the food, not from the kitchen, but from the packaging itself. If that doesn't make you question what's really safe on the menu, nothing will. But if you've made it this far, you're probably ready to speak up. If you've ever had a weird experience at Taco Bell, a soggy taco, strange ingredients, or a shift behind the counter, you're not alone. We want to hear your story. Drop a comment below and tell us what you've seen. Have you worked there? Gotten sick after eating something? Noticed something just felt off? The more people speak up, the more pressure these companies feel to clean up their act. And if you're as fired up as we are about uncovering what really happens behind closed doors, subscribe to our channel. We're exposing the truth about the biggest brands in fast food because someone has to. So what have we really uncovered? Taco Bell may sell itself as fun, fast, and affordable, but behind the late-night cravings and catchy slogans is a brand built on corners cut, ingredients stretched, and secrets buried. We've seen how their beef isn't all beef, how their cheese and sauces are loaded with additives, how they serve cleaner food overseas while leaving American customers with the cheapened version. We've heard from workers pushed to the brink, and we've peeled back the packaging to find chemicals that may last in your body long after your meal is gone. And through it all, one thing is clear: none of this is on the menu. Taco Bell, like so many fast food giants, relies on convenience, repetition, and silence. But the moment you stop to look, really look, you start to see the cost of that convenience, not just to your body, but to the workers, the environment, and the truth. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. So next time you pull up to the drive-thru, ask yourself, what am I really getting for $1.29? Because when a company gives you less than what you think you're paying for and hides what you're really consuming, that's not just fast food. That's manipulation, wrapped in foil.